So, it's been a weird 2 years with Stormblood Dark Knight, starting with losing Heaven's Ward abilities.
Paul? Paul! Oh. I guess you're gone.
And the changes may or may not have pushed me to take a 7-month hiatus. But overall, 4.0 Dark Knight was great, despite metaslaves obsessing over Warrior, and Dark Knight being vastly underused compared to Warrior and Paladin. The world first for both Ultimate fights had a Dark Knight in the party, keeping us in the conversation. So, with Shadowbringers around the corner, Dark Knight's the poster boy for the expansion.
Which really fucking scares me. Please don't pull a monk.
And it's bringing with it some pretty big changes to the playstyle, the huge one in conversation being the removal of Dark Arts and replacing it with Edge of Shadow and Flood of Shadow. But enough about Dark Knight and Shadowbringers. I have a week left to experience the Dark Knight we've grown to love and hate for the past 2 years. So let's get started. 4.0 Delirium. So the most important ability in Dark Knight's kit is Blood Weapon. While it's active, MP generation is drastically increased, allowing for an excessive use of Dark Arts. In Heaven's Ward, this pattern was 16 seconds uptime, 24 seconds downtime. In total, it's a 40-second loop, rinse and repeat. The 24 seconds were long enough that in some cases it'd be worth it to turn on Grit just to use Blood Price while Blood Weapon was coming back up. In Stormblood, if Blood Price or Blood Weapon are active, using Delirium extends the duration of either one, totaling to 32 seconds for Blood Price and 24 seconds for Blood Weapon. It also gave 2400 MP, the same cost of a Dark Arts. We only use Blood Price in 4-man content, so Blood Weapon extension is the main use. The downtime then became an 80-second loop from a static and boring 40-second one. Though, speaking of Blood Weapon, here's something I won't miss when Shadowbringers comes out. Blood Weapon gives you more skill speed, lowering your GCD. Upon first glance, that looks kinda great, but it really isn't. Let's say you're me, and all you have is the poor boy version of Best in Slot gear. Your neutral GCD is 2.34 seconds. Not too bad if it only goes that low, but with Blood Weapon, you go down to 2.10 seconds. That's way too fast. If you're confused as to why this is a bad thing, allow me to explain. So the ability that Dark Knights use the most is Dark Arts, and the reason it spams so much is that it grants plus 140 potency to most attacks before it's used, even on the ones you wish it didn't. Question then becomes, which abilities do you prioritize? The most obvious ones, because of how frequently they're used, are Siphon Strike and Soul Eater, since they're your GCD combos. The next obvious option is Blood Spiller, since you want to spend your blood gauge and you want to prevent mana overflow. However, the big skill to use it with is Carve and Spit, where Dark Arts adds 350 potency instead of the usual 140 on all the other skills. Here's the big problem though, it's an off global cooldown. Now, from an outside perspective, that's a boon, more damage to weave in between GCDs. However, Blood Weapon gave you so much skill speed that you're guaranteed to clip if you attempt to do more than single weave with Blood Weapon active. Like, look at this. Even when you choose to bite the bullet, it feels wrong. So the optimal solution if you want to prevent clipping is that the only GCD that doesn't consume Dark Arts is Hard Slash, the first skill in the combo. So the combo for using Carve and Spit efficiently was Soul Eater, Dark Arts, Hard Slash, Carve and Spit. This is the safest way to use Carve and Spit during Blood Weapon. Thankfully, sometimes you'll get lucky and Carve and Spit will come back during Blood Weapon downtime, but this is a combo that's very important if you want to prevent clipping during a raid. Adjusting myself to only single weave with Blood Weapon active took a while, but I managed to get it done. If you ask me though, I will not miss this in Shadowbringers. Dark Knight has a lot of skills. We need to use more than 10 off global cooldowns to do a threat opener. To add on top of that, you need to turn off Grit after your threat opener, but Grit's availability is tied around the GCD, but thankfully it's a toggle off unlike Paladin's GCD in between Sword Oath and Shield Oath. Here's the most effective way to turn off Grit. First, you need to execute your threat opener like you're a Tekken player at EVO, then you get to the part where you want to turn off grit. What Dark Knight players eventually find out is you can do a 0-tick stance toggle while seamlessly going into your GCD. You don't want to quite press the button simultaneously, but one right after the other, with as few frames as possible in between. It's nothing too special, but it's pretty crucial when you want to turn off grit as efficiently as possible. In 5.0, it looks like all tank stances will be off global cooldown, so this technique probably won't be needed anymore. Speaking of tank stuff, when it came to meta discussion, there was a lot of conversation over TBN being a DPS loss. It costs 2400 MP, the same cost of Dark Arts. It's the same cost as Dark Arts, so it's a DPS loss. But Dark Arts is just 140 potency. No, it's not that simple. It compounds on top of whatever you use it with, so when you crit, it'd be way more than 2 different attacks. But when TBN breaks, it gives you 50 blood. Yeah, and you're gonna spend that 50 blood on a blood spiller, and you want to spend another 2400 MP to Dark Arts it. That's so much mana. Okay, I'm not even gonna argue this one. 5.0 Dark Arts looks so much better. Not only is it buffed to 25% health, it's staying at 15 seconds, which I'm more than happy with, but it gives you a free Edge of Shadow or Flood of Shadow, pretty much doubling the value and ending the whole DPS loss conversation outright. But as the Blackest Night is right now, before Shadowbringers, in its current state, without any of the Shadowbringers utility changes, every time you use the Blackest Night, you're going to lose a use of Dark Arts, and that's a big DPS loss. This next one I'm definitely going to miss the most. Blood Price and big pulls. I know 4-mans aren't the most exhilarating thing in the game, but man, when you go in as Dark Knight, there's way too much fun to be had. You're spamming TBN, Blood Price, Dark Arts, and Abyssal Drain, and Quietus as much as you can. There is way too much fun to be had. Just watching the mana go up and down repeatedly is fun enough, and trying not to overflow your mana, and just seeing your HP never go down at all, it's just... oh, it feels way too good. The other two tanks just can't compare in this aspect. Undisputed, best big pulls. Alright, I think I'm done gushing about just Dark Knight things. I had a lot of fun putting this together. This is the first time I've attempted to do an essay-style format, and it turned out better than I thought. I hope you enjoyed what you watched, and I'm really excited for Shadowbringers. I felt super compelled to put this out since my class is going through a huge overhaul, so I wanted to be able to remember this phase of Dark Knight 2 years from now, since I barely remember how Heavensward Dark Knight was like after 2 years of it being gone. This is the first thing I've made in 8 months of nothing. I'm considering making content for Shadowbringers in the future, so feel free to subscribe to my channel. I have some experience in making comedy-centric videos. I didn't know you were there.
Let me... Cat.
On site.
Hold on, baby. Oh my god, man.
So I might go back to that for a bit, but I'm for sure considering a guide on 5.0 Dark Knight in the future. I also stream FF14 and League from time to time, so swing by and drop a follow. Thank you for watching. This is Rune, and I will see you next time.